We have, as I mentioned before, had an entire summer last summer of going door to door with 30 canvassers, talking to people in Minneapolis, as well as holding over 24 events around the city in parks where, so it could be safe, where people could come out, and hundreds upon hundreds of people showed up to tell us what they wanted out of a potential consent decree. And so we have just amassed an enormous amount of data that we're massaging into a demand type of thing. And some of the kinds of things that people really want is much stronger civilian oversight. Right now, the Office of Police Conduct Review that Jaylani mentioned earlier, that office has an absolutely pathetic record. It is controlled 100% by city staff and the police department. There is no true oversight, civilian oversight in that. There really is none. And again, they have an abysmal record. They have a less than 0.5% sustained and discipline rate. And when the national average for oversight bodies is, as Jaylani mentioned, 7 to 8%. And so we are really the low end outlier. And so that's a lot of what people are saying they want out of, they want a better accountability mechanism. And Attorney Rice talked about this as well. There isn't, it's not independent. It's actually owned by the city, and there's an incentive because the city is self-insured for police accountability lawsuits. There's a huge incentive not to discipline officers, because then that discipline can then be used to generate, to up the value of lawsuits essentially. And so that's another very large issue with the city, is being self-indemnified for police accountability incidents. And so, and to the effect that literally we budget about $19 million a year as a city for police accountability, and right now we have used up the next 7 or 8 years worth in all of these large judgments that they've paid out. I'm a property owner, a modest home in North Minneapolis, and my property taxes went up 33% this year as a result of all of these lawsuits. So even if you don't care how the cops act and you think you're fine and whatever, you gotta at least care about how much money it's costing us. And so that's a big thing that people are talking about. The biggest is accountability. There's a lot of little tinkering around the edges. There's things like people wanna be able to read the officer's badge, name and number, which you cannot read right now because of the way those badges are made. There's a ton of other little things. I'd be happy to work with you and provide that information to you and to everybody in this room. But like I said, we're still massaging that list, but the community has very rich ideas about what they want to see happen. And one of the most important things they want to see happen is an end to this racist policing.
And if I can add, Representative Bank, to what Michelle said, and I want to give tremendous praise for Michelle and her team really this past summer to engage thousands of residents. Many were also afraid to even share this information with us. Sure. I'll just add by saying that we're also seeking resources and support, experts, national experts, and also other communities that have gone through other dissent decree. And so we're looking at trying to really build something that will actually work and impact immediately and have long-lasting changes. And I think a court order is something that is unique, and we want to be able to get the most out of it.
That's right. And if I could add I know that this is very late and I apologize. We're also talking to the community about what they want out of a monitor, because the monitors are the secret sauce that makes a consent decree work. I've worked on and talked with people in parts all over this country whose departments are under a consent decree. And so the monitoring is a very important piece of this as well. And so we can't let that run by the wayside. And so those are areas we're also working on. And thank you again for your time.
Ms. Gross, are you okay? Ms. Gross, as long as I have you there. Representative Johnson earlier spoke about an important role for independent presence.
Yes.
In the, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he called for an independent, the role for some independent presence in this work. Your quick thoughts about whether, on that notion of a needed presence that has a sort of third-party perspective. And I think, Representative Johnson, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you were partly putting that within the context of, and I think Mr. Rice spoke to this issue as well, that, just simply leaving it to the city, doesn't seem to be an effective, accountability presence. Yes. By itself.
Thank you, Chair Mariani and Representative Johnson. What what the MDHR is doing is, they're the people that have to actually enforce the law, and the law is the Minnesota Human Rights Act. And so they're responsible for actually, enforcing that law. They have to be the ones to actually negotiate with the city. But one of the things that we've made clear to them in our meetings with them is that it is not going to be just them and the city in the room. They will probably realistically be physically in the room, but we want them to carry with them the demands of the community to be part of this. And they are also working with 21st Century Policing, that agency and that organization, to bring in that national perspective and that national expertise. And I think that, with the 21P CP and the demands of the community, kind of all of this coming together in one place, you end up, it's not just, Commissioner Lucero and some, the mayor and maybe a couple of city council members haggling it out in a room. It brings a whole body of people to the table. But that's one of the reasons why the work we're doing with our outreach is so key to this whole thing. They have their own outreach plan, but we have a long, long history of being in the community and doing this work, and that gives us the credibility such that we can have a booth at events all over the city, and maintain a booth every weekend at the farmers market, where we're still collecting, the experiences of people. We turned over 1,500 experiences of Minneapolis residents to the Department of Justice as part of their investigation, as well as to the Minnesota Department of Human Rights. We also turned over 10,000 documents, because the city has a retention schedule, and those documents go away at a point, and they're looking at 10 years worth. Our retention schedule is never get rid of anything, and so we have zillions of documents that we turned over, like I said, at least 10,000 to those two agencies to assist with their investigation. And whether you call us independent or not, we are members of the community, and we certainly feel like having the community at that table really counts. And then again, those professionals, those national professionals, I think are the people. And listen, all of you in this room, if you have something to say about this, the things that you want to see in the consent decree, if you want to have something to say about the investigation itself, you can feel free to reach out to the Minnesota Department of Human Rights. We have had no problem scheduling meetings with them. We've had no problem scheduling meetings with the DOJ. You could do the same thing we're doing, and I would encourage you to do so.
Very well, thank you. Representative Shaw, I think you're the last one on your list.
Some of the questions I had were answered. I just want to quickly say I want to thank Commissioner Lucero and her team for their work, and to our community members for being here tonight. I hope that we can have a more fruitful conversation when the forward investigation and consent decree are solidified. That said, I want to say, to respond to remarks about this being a Minneapolis leadership problem, we've seen similar problems, not just in our state, but around the country, and some of those Minneapolis leaders are our colleagues right here in the Minnesota legislature, and they have been pushing for accountability and reform. We just heard from Representative Jamie Long and Mr. Terrell that these issues are not limited to just Minneapolis. We as a state have a duty to address these issues, and if we don't, the Minnesota legislature fails to find a solution, we are equally as at fault as the city of Minneapolis. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Representative Zhang.
Chairman,
I do want to acknowledge we had the presence of other legislators, our other colleagues in and out of the room. Here this evening, Representative Agbaji chaired Dabney, who I believe also chairs the Minneapolis delegation in the House, Representative Breyer, Representative Jordan. Didn't see you come in, and Representative Agreement as well. So thank you to my colleagues for joining these two committees for this this conversation, this hearing here today. I also do want to acknowledge my former legislative assistant, Jason Chavez, who's here with us today. I miss you, not having you up here by my side. And also, I do want to share that Representative Becker-Finn left a little while ago. I believe today, tomorrow is the anniversary of her dad's passing. I actually served with Senator Finn many years ago in the 90s, a fine gentleman, human being, and a good legislator as well. So, members, I really want to thank all the testifiers, not only for your testimony here today, but also for your work and your presence in our beloved Minnesota communities, working to make it better. It's a pleasure to work with all of you. And I want to close by just thanking the committee members. It's been a long day for all of us. 13 hours. Yes, indeed. Representative Johnson, you and I started together. I was a little late to that, so you beat me by a good 10, 15 minutes. But no, truly, I really want to express my appreciation to all of you for saying that this is important enough for us to come together at the end of a long day to listen, to learn, and to engage with one another. And hopefully we can continue to carry that spirit forward and continue to take actions. Much of what we heard, from many of our testifiers here today. And Representative Chair Moran and also Representative Richardson were with us online. That's the trick about online. You don't know who's there or not. So with that, members, get some rest. We'll be back at this tomorrow. And thank you again. This joint committee hearing stands adjourned.